The cargo ship Clementine's Echo moved quietly through deep space, its engines humming like a sleeping animal. Inside the ship, everything was still, until something thumped in the storage bay. Jackson Reed, the ship's only human pilot, looked up from his meal. He was alone on this trip, or at least he thought he was. He set down his fork and listened. Thump. Then a soft giggle. That definitely wasn't space debris. Jackson grabbed his jacket, secured his tool belt, and walked carefully to the storage bay. As the door opened, the motion sensor lights flickered on. Large metal crates sat in rows. He walked between them slowly, ears sharp, hand resting near his pulse scanner. Then he saw her. A small creature peeked out from behind a crate. She was about the size of a backpack, with fluffy feathers covering her arms and head like a mix between a bird and a child. Her eyes were bright gold and she had a wide smile. "Human," she said in perfect English. "Are you single?" Jackson blinked. "What?" She stepped out completely, spreading her tiny arms like she was announcing the grandest news in the galaxy. "Are you single? You have to marry my mom. She's really kind." Jackson stared, speechless. The little alien walked toward him with confidence, her head held high. "My name is Neri of Clan Vishala. I am 8 cycles old. My mother is Ambassador Liru. She is the most beautiful and wise person in 5 star systems." Jackson finally found his voice. "How did you get on my ship?" "I hacked your door." "Code?" she said proudly. "It was easy. Humans use simple patterns. Yours was 1234. He rubbed his face. "You're a stowaway." "I prefer the word guest." She walked past him, looking around. "Nice ship. A little plain, though. Needs more plants." Jackson sighed and followed her. "Okay, guest, you can't just sneak onto someone's ship." "But I had to," she said quickly. "You were the only human at the station. I heard the elders say that a human hasn't been here in years. I couldn't miss the chance." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "The chance to... what? Play matchmaker?" "Yes." Neri grinned. "My mom is always working. She's lonely. She likes humans. She even learned your language, so I thought, why not help? Humans believe in family, right?" Jackson didn't know whether to laugh or be impressed. "You planned this?" "Yes, I even brought snacks." She pulled a small bag from behind her and handed him a squishy blue fruit. "It's safe for humans." "Probably." He didn't take it. "Look, Neri, you're very smart, but this is dangerous. I could have jumped into warp and you'd be lost. Forever." She tilted her head. "But you didn't." He paused. She had a point. "Where's your mom now?" "Back on Vishala Prime. That's where we live. You'll take me home, right?" Jackson crossed his arms. "Yes, I will. As soon as we're close enough to turn around." Neri frowned. "But that will take days." "Then you'll spend those days cleaning cargo crates." She blinked. "Really?" "No," Jackson said. "But you'll stay out of trouble. Deal?" She smiled again and gave him a thumbs up with 3 tiny fingers. "Deal." The next few days were strange. Jackson had never shared his ship before, and now he was sharing it with a very curious alien child. Neri explored every room, asked hundreds of questions, and somehow managed to rewire the coffee machine to sing lullabies. Every evening, she would sit with Jackson and talk about her home. Vishala Prime, she said, was a beautiful planet full of glowing trees, floating gardens, and wise elders. Her mother, Ambassador Liru, worked with many species to keep peace across the galaxy. "She works too much," Neri said one evening, as they stared out the viewing window. Stars blinked gently in the distance. "She always says, peace takes patience. But I think she also needs someone to make her smile." Jackson was silent. Neri glanced at him. "She had a friend once, a human. He helped her during a war. After that, she always said humans had something special, not just strength, heart." Jackson looked at her, surprised. "She fought in a war?" Neri nodded. "Before I was born, she helped save 2 whole systems." Jackson leaned back in his chair. She sounds amazing. She is, Neri said proudly, then she added, she also makes really good soup. Jackson chuckled. On the 5th day, as they approached the nearest jump point, Jackson stood in the cockpit checking the coordinates. Neri sat beside him, playing with a small cube that changed colors when she tapped it. Ready to head home? Jackson asked. Yes, she said. Then quietly, thank you for not throwing me out the airlock. He smiled. Wasn't my first choice, but you grew on me. She beamed. I'm serious, Neri, he said more softly. When we land, your mother might not be happy about what you did. She might even be angry. I know, Neri said, but maybe she'll understand why I did it. He looked at her. You think she'll like me? Neri tilted her head. Do you like her? Jackson blinked. I've never met her. But you will, Neri said with a grin. And she's really kind. Just wait. As the ship entered jump space, Jackson sat quietly, watching the stars stretch into lines. He wasn't sure what waited on SciFi-Prime. He wasn't sure if this strange adventure was a mistake or the beginning of something important. But one thing was certain. He wasn't alone anymore, and Neri sitting beside him already felt like family. The stars slowly faded back into points as Clementine's Echo dropped out of jump space. Jackson Reed sat at the pilot's seat, carefully guiding the ship toward a glowing blue and green planet, SciFi-Prime. It was beautiful. Large floating islands hovered in the sky. Rivers sparkled like glass. Huge trees with silver leaves waved in the wind. Strange flying creatures glided above shining cities built into cliffs and trees. Beside him, Neri pressed her face to the window and squealed with joy. Home, home, she sang. You're going to love it, Jackson. I already like the view, he said. As they neared the planet, a voice came through the ship's speaker. Unidentified Terran ship, this is SciFi-Prime. State your purpose. Jackson pressed the button. This is Jackson Reed, cargo pilot. I have your missing child. There was silence. Then, a different voice, calm and clear. Mr. Reed, this is Ambassador Liru. You have my daughter? Neri shouted. Hi, Mom, I'm okay. I brought a surprise. Jackson sighed. Requesting landing permission. The voice replied quickly. Granted. Landing pad A9. Escort will meet you. Thank you, Mr. Reed. As they descended, Jackson could feel the weight of attention. A Terran ship had landed on SciFi-Prime only a few times in the last decade. This was not a normal visit. The landing pad was smooth white stone, surrounded by flower-like towers. When Jackson stepped out of the ship, several tall Vishalan guards stood waiting, their armor glowing faintly. Neri rushed ahead and hugged one of them, who smiled and patted her head. Then she turned and pointed. This is him. This is Jackson. He didn't throw me out the airlock. Jackson stepped down the ramp, a little unsure. Then he saw her, Ambassador Liru. She was tall, graceful, and dressed in robes that shimmered like water. Her eyes were soft green, her feathers light silver. She looked wise, calm, and, surprisingly, relieved. She knelt and hugged Neri tightly. Thank the stars you're safe. I told you I'd be fine, Neri said, and I brought him. Liru looked up at Jackson. Their eyes met. You must be Mr. Reed, she said. Jackson, he replied, offering a hand. Your daughter has quite the imagination. Liru stood and smiled. She also has your ship's access code, apparently. He chuckled. I'll change it after this. She studied him for a moment, then gave a small bow. You have my thanks. Please come inside. As our guest. The Vishalan capital was unlike anything Jackson had ever seen. Floating bridges connected the trees. Lights moved like stars following people. The air smelled like sweet fruit and fresh rain. They were led into the ambassador's home, a wide open place with vines climbing the walls and water flowing through the floor in small channels. It felt peaceful, alive. Liru served tea made from glowing petals. Please sit. You must have many questions. I do, Jackson said. But first, what happens now? Liru folded her hands. We do not punish children for acts of the heart. Neri believes you are someone important. I want to understand why. I just gave her a ride, he said. I didn't expect marriage offers. Liru smiled softly. She lost her father before she was born. She dreams of family. I hope you don't feel pressured. Jackson shook his head. Honestly, I'm just trying to catch up. Neri ran into the room with drawings. Look, I made this while we traveled. It's me, you, and Mom, on a picnic. Jackson looked at the picture. Stick figure versions of him and Liru sat beside a tree, with a small bird child between them. That's very detailed, he said. Liru smiled and said, You're very kind to entertain her ideas. Jackson looked at her carefully. What about you? Do you think a human could be part of your world? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, Long ago, I met a human diplomat. He believed in peace, even when others wanted war. He gave me hope. Jackson nodded slowly. I didn't come here to become part of anyone's prophecy. I just wanted to return a lost kid. Liru smiled. And you did. But sometimes, small choices open great doors. Later, Jackson walked outside onto a balcony. The night sky above SCIFI-Prime was stunning. 3 moons and a ring of stars that glowed gently like fireflies. Neri joined him. Nice here, huh? Very, he said. Do you like my mom? She asked. Jackson paused. I don't know her well enough. But she seems special. She is, Neri said. She's brave and funny and makes the best food. She used to sing me songs when I couldn't sleep. Jackson looked at her. Why did you choose me? She tilted her head. Because you looked lonely. And you talked to me like a person, not a problem. Most grown-ups don't. He was quiet for a moment. I've been alone a long time, he admitted. But I'm not sure I belong here. Maybe, she said. But you're not just any human, you're my human. He laughed. You're something else, Neri. I know, she said proudly. The next day, Jackson was invited to a council meeting. It wasn't a courtroom, but it felt serious. 5 elder Vishallans sat around a round table made of living crystal. Ambassador Liru stood beside him. Elder, Sovereign, the tallest of them, spoke. Human Jackson, you have entered our world not as a conqueror, but as a guardian of one of our own. Jackson felt the weight of many eyes on him. Another elder added, Long ago, your kind helped ours in times of darkness. Some believed the stories were myths. But today, one of you comes not with weapons, but with kindness. Jackson raised a hand. I didn't do anything special. I just kept a promise. The elders looked at one another. Then they nodded. You are welcome among us, said Sovereign. If you choose to stay, you will be given a place. If you choose to go, we will remember your name. Liru turned to him and asked gently, What do you wish, Jackson? He looked at her, then at Neri, who had snuck into the back of the room, giving him 2 thumbs up. He took a deep breath. I'll stay, he said, for now. The days passed peacefully on SCIFI-Prime. Jackson Reed found himself slowly adjusting to this strange and beautiful world. The Vishallans treated him with respect, and Neri followed him everywhere like a shadow, always asking questions, or trying to impress him with new inventions. But one question stayed in his mind. Why were they so welcoming? Most alien planets were careful around humans, but here they spoke to him like an old friend. Even the council, full of wise leaders, looked at him like he was something more than just a visitor. He couldn't ignore it anymore. So one morning, Jackson asked Liru directly. They were sitting near the floating gardens where giant flowers hovered above the ground, moving slowly in the soft wind. Birds with glowing wings flew between the petals. Jackson turned to her. Liru, I need to understand something. Why do your people treat humans so kindly, especially me? Liru looked at him for a moment. Then she gave a small nod. Come with me, she said. They traveled to the Temple of Echoes, one of the oldest places on Vishala Prime. It was hidden deep in the mountains, surrounded by mist and tall trees that whispered when the wind passed through them. The temple was built from silver stone that shimmered like moonlight. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly. Inside, the air was cool and silent. "This temple is older than any city on our planet," Liru said. "It holds stories passed down for thousands of years." Jackson followed her through a hallway until they reached a large round chamber. In the center stood a tall crystal that glowed softly with blue light. "This is the Heartstone," she said. "It records memories, stories, truths." She touched the stone gently. Suddenly, light filled the room. Images appeared in the air like ghosts from the past. Jackson saw ships, old and strange, not Vishalan. They looked like early Terran designs, simple and boxy. "Humans. These are your people," Liru said. "Long ago, during the first silence, when the stars stopped speaking and chaos grew, a small group of humans arrived here. They helped us rebuild. They shared food, tools, and hope." The image changed. A tall human man was standing between two arguing alien leaders. He raised his hands. They stopped fighting. "He was called the Starfather by our ancestors," Liru continued. "Not because he ruled us, but because he reminded us of the stars, distant yet full of light. He guided with peace, not power." The image faded slowly. Jackson stood still. "So, your people think I'm some kind of legend?" "Not exactly," Liru said. "But we believe humans carry something rare, a balance of strength and kindness. We hoped one day more would return." Jackson rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm not a legend. I'm just a cargo pilot with a rusty ship and an accidental sidekick." Liru smiled. "And yet you protected her. You brought her home. You listened when others might have ignored." Jackson looked at the Heartstone again. "What happened to the original Starfather?" "No one knows," Liru replied. "He left, one day without a word. Some say he returned to the stars. Others say he walks among us, watching." "Sounds like something Neri would write," Jackson joked. They both laughed. Then Liru said softly, "Maybe that's why she chose you. Children see truths adults forget." Later that night, Jackson sat outside the guest room staring at the sky. The 3 moons were full, their light silver and soft. Neri crept up beside him, wrapped in a fluffy blanket. "You couldn't sleep either?" "No," he said. She sat down and leaned on his side. "Did Mom tell you the Starfather story?" "She did. Do you believe it?" "I don't know," Jackson said. "It sounds too big, too perfect." "But you're kind," Neri said. "And you didn't run away, that's rare." Jackson looked at her. "Why do you want me to be part of your family, Neri? Really?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because everyone talks about peace and kindness, but not many people do it," she said. "You helped me even when you didn't have to. You didn't shout or blame. You cared. That's enough for me." Jackson felt something warm in his chest. "You're a strange kid," he said with a smile. "Thank you," she replied proudly. The next day, trouble arrived. A small ship entered Vishalan space without warning. It didn't answer hails. It didn't respond to the planet's safety beacons. Instead, it just drifted, then dropped something. A message pod. The council met quickly, and Jackson was invited to attend. The pod's message was simple: return the human, or the silence will begin again. Everyone in the room was silent. Elder Savrin spoke first. "We haven't heard from the Hollow Mind in years." "They're back," said another, "and they fear what humans may bring." Jackson looked at Liru. "Who are they?" She answered, "A faction that believes the universe should forget. Forget war, forget peace, forget connection. They believe emotions are weakness. That history is a trap." "And they think I'm a threat to that?" Jackson asked, confused. Savrin nodded. "You carry memories. You remind us of what came before. They fear stories of hope. Jackson stood. I'm not running. No one is asking you to, Liru said. But we must prepare. This may not be a simple warning. Jackson looked around. The room felt colder now. That evening, Neri didn't speak much. She sat in her room quietly working on something with wires and metal scraps. Jackson knocked and peeked in. Hey, you okay? She nodded, eyes focused. Just making something. In case. In case what? In case you have to leave, I want to help. Jackson walked in and sat beside her. You don't need to worry. Whatever happens, I won't disappear without saying goodbye. She looked up at him. Promise? He held out his hand. Promise. She took it. Outside, stars blinked silently, but change had already begun. The legend of the Starfather was no longer just a story, and Jackson Reed was no longer just a pilot. He was a symbol, and symbols can change everything. The calm days on GalacticPrime didn't last long. Just 3 days after the message from the Hollow Mind, the danger became real. One of Vishalla's moon stations, Station Leora, home to diplomats, scientists, and families, stopped sending signals. The station had over 200 people. Now it was silent. Liru called an emergency meeting with the council. They've taken the station, she said, voice steady but tense. This was not just a threat. The Hollow Mind is making their move. The elders looked concerned. One said, we must not respond with force. That is what they want. But we must act, said Liru. There are children there, families. We cannot wait. Then she turned to Jackson. You've flown rescue missions before. Will you help? Jackson didn't hesitate. Yes. Tell me what I need to do. Inside a briefing room, Jackson, Liru, and a few Vishalan guardians studied a hologram of Station Leora. It orbited a cold blue moon and had 4 main sections: the command ring, life support, the docking bay, and the ambassador's chamber. We believe the Hollow Mind entered through a cargo ship, said one guardian. They jammed the station's signals and locked the docking ports. They won't expect a human, Liru added. You can move quietly, find the hostages, protect them. Help us unlock the station systems from inside. Jackson nodded. What about Neri? She stays here, Liru said quickly. But when Jackson returned to his room, Neri was already waiting there with a backpack and a tiny headset. I heard everything, she said. You're not coming, Jackson said firmly. I can help, she argued. I know their tech, I know the station systems, and I already made something that might help us win. Jackson sighed. This is dangerous, Neri. It's not a game. I know, she said quietly. But those people are scared. I would be too. I want to help them. He looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. You stay close to me and follow every order. She smiled. Deal. The rescue ship, Star Whisper, was small but fast. It carried Jackson, Neri, Liru, and 3 trained guardians. They flew in silence, knowing the mission was serious. As they neared Station Leora, the silence around it felt heavy. Lights were still on, but no signals came through. No greetings. No welcome. The ship docked quietly on the side of the station, where emergency access was still working. Jackson adjusted his suit, checked his gear, and looked at Neri. You ready? He asked. She nodded. Let's bring them home. Inside, the station was dark. Emergency lights glowed red. The air was cold and still. They moved carefully through the hallways. Liru guided them using a small map on her wrist device. Jackson stayed close to Neri, keeping one hand near his pulse scanner. After 10 minutes of walking, they reached the main control room. But the door was locked. I can open it, Neri said. She pulled out a small cube from her bag. It blinked with lights and made soft beeping sounds. She placed it on the control panel. In seconds, the door opened. Nice work, Jackson whispered. Inside the control room, 2 Hollow Mind agents stood near the controls. Their suits were dark gray, and their faces were hidden behind smooth helmets. Before they could react, the Vishalan guardians moved in silently, using sleep darts. Both agents fell to the ground without a sound. "We need to find the others," Liru said. Jackson searched the computers. "The life support section is locked from the inside. That's probably where they're keeping the hostages." "Let's go," Liru said. As they moved through the halls, a sudden alarm rang out. "Intruders detected." The lights changed from red to flashing white. Metal doors began to close slowly throughout the station. "They found us," Jackson said. Neri quickly pulled out another small device. "I can stop the doors, but I need a minute." "Do it," Jackson said. He and the Guardians formed a circle around her while she worked. She sat cross-legged, typing on the small screen with fast fingers. One hollow mind agent appeared from the far hallway, but before he could raise his weapon, Liru fired a stun pulse. He dropped instantly. "Done," Neri said. "Doors open. Let's move." They reached the life support section. Inside, dozens of people, Vishalans of all ages, were sitting quietly. Some looked frightened, others were trying to stay strong for their children. When they saw Jackson and Liru, some gasped. A few even smiled. Liru stepped forward. "You are safe now. We are here." The crowd moved slowly, some helping others walk. Jackson guided them toward the path back to the docking port, but then the floor shook. A loud voice echoed through the station. "So, the human has arrived." Everyone stopped. A large screen turned on. A hollow mind commander appeared. His face, hidden behind a silver mask. "We knew one would come. You are a symbol of old stories. We came to destroy those stories." Jackson stepped forward. "If you hurt these people, you only make the stories stronger. Then let the story end with silence." Suddenly, explosive charges lit up on the screen, placed near the station's core. "He's going to destroy it," one Guardian said. "We need to disarm them," Jackson said. "I know how," Neri shouted. "I saw the layout last time we visited." Jackson looked at her. "Can you do it?" She nodded. "Yes, but I'll need help." "Let's go," Jackson said. "Liru, take the others back to the ship." She hesitated. "Be careful." "I will," he said. Jackson and Neri rushed through the lower tunnels. Steam hissed from pipes. Lights flickered. They reached the power core. 2 explosive devices were strapped to the energy lines. A timer blinked, E00521. "We don't have much time," Jackson said. Neri opened her tools. "Cut the blue wire on the left one. I'll handle the right." Jackson followed her instructions carefully. Sweat ran down his back. His hands shook, but he trusted her. "Now unscrew the cap." "Yes, like that." "Good." Neri clicked the last switch. The timers stopped. Both bombs were disarmed. Jackson sat down and let out a long breath. "You really are a genius," she smiled. "Told you I could help." They returned to the ship. The rescued families were already on board, safe and warm. As the ship flew away from the station, they watched from the window. The lights of Station Sarge. Leora slowly faded into the distance, but the people were safe, and the silence had not won. Later, back on GalacticPrime, a celebration was held, not with fireworks, but with gentle music and soft lights. People gave thanks. Elders praised the courage of the rescue team. Liru stood before the crowd and spoke. "Today, hope won, not with force but with heart, and we thank the human who reminded us of what matters most." Jackson felt a little shy as everyone looked at him. Neri climbed onto a small stool and shouted, "See? I told you he's the best. Even the bad guys couldn't stop him." Everyone laughed kindly. Liru looked at Jackson and smiled. "You didn't come here to be a hero, but you became one. Anyway," Jackson gave a small smile. "I just followed the smartest person in the room." He nodded at Neri, and she grinned wider than ever. The 3 moons of GalacticPrime were high and bright when the council called its final meeting about the Station Leora crisis. People filled the grand forum, scholars in soft blue robes, guardians in polished armor, farmers who smelled of sweet earth. Lanterns floated overhead like gentle suns. Everyone wanted to see the human pilot who had saved their friends. Jackson Reed stood near the edge of the round stage, feeling smaller than he ever had in deep space. He smoothed the front of his worn flight jacket and glanced at 8-year-old Neri. She wore a new sash of glowing feathers and could not stop bouncing on her toes. "Do not worry," she whispered. "You only have to talk. If you faint, I will finish your speech." Jackson smiled. "That is what scares me." Music drifted through the hall, soft strings and distant drums. Then Elder Savrin, tallest of the council, raised both hands for quiet. The lanterns dimmed, leaving silver light around the stage. "Citizens of Vishala," Savrin said, voice deep and warm. "Tonight we celebrate unity. We remember the brave ones who kept Station Leora alive, and we honor a visitor who showed again what humans can be." He turned toward Jackson. "Jackson Reed, please step forward." Jackson swallowed. His boots tapped on smooth stone as he moved to the center. He felt every eye on him, some curious, some shining with tears, some simply joyful. In the front row he saw Ambassador Liru. Her silver feathers caught the light like water. She gave him a calm nod, and suddenly his heartbeat slowed. Savrin spoke again. "You risked yourself for people you did not know. You trusted our child when logic said she was too young. You believed in hope when fear tried to rule. For these reasons, and for the friendship you offer, we grant you honorary citizenship of GalacticPrime." A gentle cheer rose, rolling through the hall like a warm wave. 2 guardians stepped forward and set a small crystal pedestal at Jackson's feet. Resting on it was a pendant shaped like a tiny star wrapped by 3 rings, the mark of belonging. Savrin lifted the pendant and placed it around Jackson's neck. It hummed, reacting to his heartbeat. A soft blue glow settled against his chest. Jackson took a deep breath and spoke, his voice carrying farther than he expected. "Thank you. I am only one pilot, but together, we did something greater. I promise. I will use this new place in your world to build bridges, not walls." The crowd answered with louder cheers. Somewhere high above, the lanterns flared gold. Building tomorrow, over the next weeks, Jackson stayed in the capital while repairs on Clementine's Echo finished. Every morning he woke to new invitations, from teachers who wanted him to tell his story, from engineers who wished to study Terran star maps, from cooks who begged him to judge noodle recipes. He tried to accept only a few each day, but he was still exhausted by evening. One clear afternoon, Liru guided him through a quiet valley outside the city. A wide meadow stretched toward misty hills. At its center stood 3 unfinished buildings shaped like open petals. "This," Liru said, "will be the Institute of Harmony, a school where young minds from many planets can learn science and peace together. We started planning years ago, but never found the right spirit to lead it." Jackson turned slowly, imagining children of many colors running between the petals. "You want me to lead?" "Not alone," she said. "With us. With Neri, once she is older. You bring human imagination. We bring Vishalan patience. Together, both gifts can grow." Jackson bent to touch the smooth white stone at his feet. "I piloted cargo ships because I was good at moving things from one point to another. Maybe it is time I help move ideas instead." Liru's smile was gentle. "That is an answer I hoped for." She reached into her robe and withdrew a small seed encased in clear gel. "Plant this near the entrance. When the first class arrives, it will have grown into a tree that records every laugh shared beneath its branches." Jackson accepted the seed, pressing it between his palms. The gel was cool. "Another memory stone?" "Something simpler," Liru said. "A living diary written in rings of wood." He slid the seed into his pocket with care. A spark of doubt. That night, Jackson sat on his balcony and stared at the pendant. Clouds drifted across the nearest moon like slow ships. Inside, his thoughts whirled. Was he truly the right person? What if the hollow mind returned with stronger forces? What if he failed these people who believed in him so quickly? Soft footsteps sounded behind him. Neri appeared in a long night robe carrying 2 steaming cups of starleaf tea. "You look like a broken engine," she said, handing him a cup. "Too much noise inside?" He chuckled. "You could say that. I keep thinking, why me? Thousands of humans are out there. Smarter ones. Braver ones." Neri sat cross-legged beside him. "Maybe the stars choose who is near when needed. You were near me when I needed you. That was enough." She sipped her tea, feathers fluffing in the chill. "Air. When Dad was gone before I was born, Mom told me, courage is not the loud roar. It is the quiet step forward when the path is dark. You are stepping forward. That is courage." Jackson looked at the tiny girl, feathered, fearless, certain. "Thank you," he said softly. She grinned. "Plus, you make good noodles." He laughed, and the knot in his chest loosened. Echoes of the past a week later, a small Terran diplomatic shuttle arrived, sent by Earth's outer colony network after hearing rumors of the Station Leora incident. Captain Alia Torres greeted Jackson with a handshake that nearly crushed his fingers. "Old friend," she said. "Last time I saw you, you were racing freighters near Pluto. Now you have a pendant and a fan club?" Jackson rolled his eyes. "I promise it was not planned." Torres met with the Vishalan Council while Jackson acted as bridge between cultures. He spoke of the Heartstone, of the Starfather myth, of the new institute. Torres listened, then surprised him by offering Earth support, books, tools, volunteer teachers. Savern accepted. "We welcome every ready hand," he said. Later, Torres clapped Jackson on the shoulder. "You found your place in spaceman. I can see it in your eyes." "Maybe," he answered. "Or it found me. Festival of First Light, the day the Institute of Harmony opened. Dawn shone pink across the valley. Jackson, Liru, and Neri stood at the entrance with delegates from 5 planets. Students, young humans, Vishalans, and others arrived on sky skiffs decorated with ribbon. Neri wore a teacher's pin she had crafted herself, tiny gears turning inside clear resin. She couldn't officially teach yet, but she had designed half the lab equipment, small, safe, and wonderfully bright. Jackson stepped forward, seed in hand. He knelt and pressed it into fresh soil beside the main path. As his fingers covered it, a spark of blue light pulsed. The crowd gasped softly. Tiny roots shot downward. A thin sprout poked through the dirt, reaching toward the sun. It was all ready. Record-keeping, Liru spoke to the gathering. "May every idea shared here become a bridge between hearts." She glanced at Jackson, then reached out. He took her hand. Together they faced the students. For a moment the world was silent. Even the wind seemed to listen. Then a child laughed in excitement, another echoed, and soon the meadow rang with joy. A quiet moment. That evening, long after the festival, Jackson and Liru walked the empty halls of the Institute. The walls flickered softly, storing the days, memories, children's first questions, teachers' gentle answers, songs sung during lunch. At the central atrium, Jackson stopped. Lanterns floated above a still pool, their reflections forming silver paths on water. "I have something for you," Liru said. She opened her hand, revealing a slim silver bracelet set with a single blue stone. "In our culture, this means we walk the same road." Jackson's pulse quickened. "Liru, She shook her head with a small smile. "No promise heavier than you wish. Only truth. We choose the same direction. For now." He took the bracelet, heart steady. "Then let us walk." She slipped it onto his wrist. The stone warmed at her touch. Above them, a new lantern drifted into view, released Jackson knew by Neri from some hidden balcony. Written across its side in bright paint were 4 simple words: "Welcome, New Star Family." Jackson laughed, Liru laughed, and the lantern rose higher, joining the others like fresh hopes mixing with old dreams. Epilogue. The story goes on. Months later, travelers crossing Vishala space heard a new legend. It spoke of a human who arrived on a quiet ship and carried the spirit of the Starfather without knowing it. He, a brave ambassador and a fearless child, built a school where laughter and science lived as equals. From this valley, young voices would someday spread across the stars, telling every world that kindness is stronger than fear. In a small office overlooking the Institute gardens, Jackson kept his old flight jacket on a wall hook, a reminder of paths already flown. Each morning he touched the pendant at his chest, felt its steady glow, and stepped into new lessons with students who saw him not as savior, but as teacher. And somewhere in the archives of the Heartstone, a fresh memory shone. A human, a Vishalan, and a feathered child standing together beneath rising lanterns, their shadows long and bright on the stone, proof that families can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes answered prayers begin with a single brave question. Human, are you single?